Welcome to the morning call. It's Monday, the 1st of June, and we are seeing tensions rising in the Middle East, which is causing the energy mix to rise. And in fact, we put our morning call out to energy trading clients earlier this morning, and we're seeing oil, gas, and power all looking bullish. So energy markets are rising, which is having a bit of an impact on the market. And if we look at the dollar, that's still remaining fairly flat. Japanese yen, we are seeing this intervention. I think I read somewhere that there's been 14 trillion of intervention in the last month, 14 trillion yen. So really pressure on the Japanese government to try and stop the currency weakening. We're seeing sterling waiting really for the which way we're going to break. We're in that sideways move. It's really in line with the dollar. And if we look at Bitcoin, we've talked about this in previous sessions, just this failed recovery. If we look at the 60-minute chart on Bitcoin, we can see that trending lower. And so the key thing really is to watch these price targets. And of course, you can be watching them in Updater. I'm now also doing them in TradingView, and I will be recording charts today in TradingView as well. So if you're using TradingView, you can actually now get the indicators on TradingView. The targets and the trend levels and everything. So do keep an eye out for that. Keep people informed. So you can either watch charts today now in TradingView or in the TradingView platform. So do follow me there if you have TradingView. It's just David_Linton, and you can keep abreast of me there using the TradingView charts, which may be the charts that you're using. Looking at the markets this morning, the Nasdaq was up on Friday, a very mixed picture, which we'll look at in a minute, but we have activated that upside target. The futures are stronger today as well, up 1/3%. So we are seeing here new upside targets. There's really no stopping the market in the US, and that's really, we just can't ignore the fact that we're making new highs. The UK market is down about 1/3% this morning, waiting to see if we activate this downside target. It will turn red. That is the thrust target, so that's the key thing there. And looking at the DAX, we're down here as well on the actual index. That's the future on the actual index. We're just very slightly up. CAC is down slightly. Japan weaker, down 0.4%, but has been touching new highs on that currency weakness. Higher earnings for Japanese companies. Looking at the Indian market, it continues to look weak. Waiting to see if we activate this downside target, which we look like there's pressure to do. And the Aussie market, very flat. Again, waiting to see which way we go, which way we break. Seeing some of just the soft commodities, we've got sugar that is heading lower in the range. That's where the 60-minute chart shows you those downside targets. So that's really quite interesting. And then we're seeing, I was reading yesterday about this mouse plague in Australia starting to affect crops there. We have got upside targets on grains. Gold, we're sitting at just holding this support level at the moment, but we do have still this downside target. And if you look at the 60-minute chart, we've got a new upside target. So it's a very mixed picture there for gold. Silver is up this morning, but again, the picture is not great. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, targets, nothing very exciting there. After the very steep ascent that we saw at the start of the year. Bonds, we're seeing bond yields looking fairly steady. We have pulled back from these highs that we've seen recently, and that is happening on pretty much all bond markets. The Mag 7 on Friday, we did see Apple just pushing higher in the week, but they just got a little bit of what looks like a doji there on the end, that final candle there on Apple. Amazon down 1.2%. Alphabet gave up quite a lot. Notice how we haven't activated that upside target yet on Amazon, so that's quite key. And Alphabet, we have had a bit of a pullback and just looking a little bit like a top pattern there, which shows up on the lagging line. And again, if you go to the 60-minute chart, you've got a target. So giving up some of the gains that we've seen. We did talk about Microsoft on Friday. before the market opened in the US, saying that there were new upside targets that were waiting to be activated. They were activated on Friday. Microsoft has been an underperformer, but that is now through the cloud, looking more and more like a recovery. And we've got the upside targets there to confirm that. The 60-minute targets will have kicked in first, of course. That was the break of resistance, and there's another upside target there. So that's really quite interesting. We're seeing Nvidia down 1.45% on Friday, and Tesla also giving up some gains. A little bit needs to make a new high there, but a watch for the lower high. $400 is a really critical level for Tesla. And of course, we've got the SpaceX launch soon. Launch being the pun, but we have got the SpaceX IPO coming, and that's going to be interesting for Tesla. If we look at the Dow, we've seen Walmart. This is the Dow 30 stocks. We're seeing Walmart failing to make a new high, and then breaking that level. That's as good as the lower high, lower low. Remember, on our training course, you can do the training course on the Uploader site. That is really a sign that that has topped. So we're below the cloud, so that is not looking so great. On the other end of the scale, we saw IBM gaining quite significantly last week. They again have been an underperformer, so that's been quite key. Very mixed picture for JP Morgan. We've got targets in either direction. So the picture is pretty mixed across the board. There were more fallers than risers, even though the market is looking quite strong. Looking at the Nasdaq, very interesting what was happening on the Nasdaq on Friday. We had a situation where the software companies that have been really the ones being hit lately are all starting to put in moves through the cloud and recoveries. And Microsoft is a great example of a leader of that. So perhaps that's what we've seen. You've got Workday there. A lot of these stocks, that Datadog just breaking to new highs, passing the target very quickly. So that's looking quite strong. But even stocks like Adobe, that have had a terrible run recently. And remember, recoveries can fail. You do need to watch those. But we are seeing stocks like Intuit still bearish below the cloud, even though they were up strongly. So that trend position is really quite key. And ARM, nothing stopping ARM, just pushing higher there. But we did see quite a bit of falls in the chip area. So Intel does look risky here of a top. Watch for the lower high, lower low. The classic Dow theory. Texas Instruments were down 3%. NXP. So we did see, even though these charts are still looking very bullish, we just did see a bit of a transformation from software companies going up and Microsoft leading that, and chips taking a break. That's it for today. Have a great day. Until tomorrow. Bye for now.